All right, everyone. I think we're settling in. Delighted to be here. So thank you to ITC for having us. My name's Simone Doster. I'm the CEO of Insurtech Australia. We're a member association. We support insurtechs and startups, and we've got 11 of our members here. And I've got a really great panel today, and in the pre-sessions there was already a lot of debate on the topic, so I think it's going to be very challenging, but a really interesting conversation for the next 34 minutes. I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves because they'll do a much better job than I am. And so I'll get them to introduce themselves, talk about their company, and a little bit about what is low-code, no-code. So I'll start here with John.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining. My name is John Wang. I am a part of Aon. More specifically, I run an endpoint claims consulting and solutions team. We work directly with P&C carriers, advising on claims operations, as well as implementing very bespoke software for claims teams. I'd say my perspective here on low-code, no-code, I've seen it all. I've seen it from a simple point solution to a full-scale implementation of a core system replacement. But I also see it from the challenges come from low-code, no-code, and I see it from a business perspective on implementing to make sure that it meets the entire value chain of the claims operations.
Over to you, Brent.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Brent Williams. I'm the founder and CEO of Benekiva. And prior to Benekiva, I was an investment financial advisor and built a substantial advisory practice. And the idea for Benekiva came from that practice. On one hand, I was constantly apologizing for the archaic processes, while on the other hand, I was trying to maintain and serve policyholders and beneficiaries. So we decided to put together a team and build Benekiva. Benekiva is a full core claims platform. We do claims, servicing, and asset retention.
Harry?
Good afternoon. I'm Harry Cohen, founder and CEO of MIC Global. We're a full-stack digital insurance company focused on the embedded insurance. We've got our own low-code platform that we've developed, but we also sell and for other users. So we use it ourselves and we sell our own low-code platform.
And Andy?
Hello, I'm Andy Cohen. I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer of Snapsheet. Snapsheet is an insurtech entirely focused on claims and simplifying the claims experience for insurance adjusters, insurance carriers, customers. We work with a little bit more than 125 customers in the U.S., Canada, and Europe. We've raised more than $100 million, and we're one of the original insurtechs. But we use our platform similar to Harry in that in the auto process, we use our low-code platform to process claims on behalf of carriers, and we also sell our platform to insurance carriers, MGAs, TPAs, self-insureds all over the world to deliver better claims experience in a configurable platform that's their own.
So I might stay with you, Andy. Why for P&C claims is that low-code, no-code, really a value? Why?
Look, I think technology has failed insurance carriers for decades. When I started in the workforce, the technology in the workforce was better than what we had at home. And now it's been distanced it by decades, right? So 23, 24 years. And so low code, no code is wildly important because it puts the power in business users to drive different processes, different workflows, improve engagement, ultimately improve outcomes. And change can be done in minutes, hours, and days instead of months and years and decades in this industry. So it's absolutely critical, both because the world's changing and people's expectations are changing, which everyone knows, but also it also delivers a much lower total cost of ownership for the carriers, which is critically important.
And what about life? Brent, why is it relevant for life? What's the particular attributes?
Yeah, I think from a life annuity and health perspective, there's all kinds of conversations about technical debt. And when you create that legacy type technology, you're inevitably going to create technical debt over time. So the thought process with a low code, no code, Benekiva is no custom code. We've got 19 carriers and not one single line of custom code, and 9 of those are tier 1 sized carriers. So we've proven now that it can be done. But the nice thing about that is as you progress, as your business changes, you can configure to the changes. We had a use case, for example, on state-specific interest calculations. And a client says, well, we want to add 2 extra days of interest calculations to our mandatory interest payments. And to us, that was a configuration change. We had that done in 2 hours. And they, send it back to them, test all the calculations, and we push it to the path to production, and you're done.
Or best practice, they can just do it themselves whenever they want and test themselves. So.
And what was interesting was they said, gosh, that would have been a 9-month process before. We'd have had to create an IT ticket, we'd have had to go through all this, we'd have got funding, and that you just don't have to do that anymore.
And Harry, your platform is end-to-end and you're focused on that micro segment. Why is it particularly relevant for that segment?
Well, I think, again, building on it's about speed. Speed is important. We have to keep up with our clients. We have to, we work with all our partners, and some partners can be slow and some partners can be very fast. And to get the ability to be able to do something in a matter of days or weeks, not months and years, is really critical to us. Our system, we've got a load of pre-configured sort of modules. That means that 80-90% of the actual problems that we're trying to solve are configurable. And to your point, you can pass the configuration down to business analysts and train a team to do it locally. So we operate around the world, so we can have local people doing it in their country rather than sort of doing it centrally.
Now, John, these guys have all been selling the benefits of low-code, no-code, and they've all got low-code, no-code solutions. So when we spoke earlier, you provided a very different point of view. You were saying it was very rarely successful. I want to hear about your experience on the other side.
So I think my perspective is that I totally agree with Andy. The total cost of ownership, if that is a number one priority, you need to consider low-code, no-code. And they get to balance that with what the business needs to run their operations. The way I kind of see it is, low code, no code, if everyone uses it, can get to, say, 80%. Spend the money, if that's the need, on the 20%, that will require some customization. I mean, that's going to be your differentiator beyond the low code, no code, or getting up to the basics. I think that's differentiated. Now, the disappointments are because I think I've come with a little bit of the legacy world, maybe 10 years ago, where I've been part of a lot of large core system implementations, and I totally agree. Those implementations, either using a custom BPM system to build a core system, eventually I run into the facts where customers want very specific requirements built very specific to the way they run their business. Now, it's difficult, and it's part of that discussion on change management. If you can convince the stakeholders to adopt changes and accept the changes in exchange for low code, no code, and speed to market and total cost of ownership being low, I think that's a happy trade. But in my experience, a lot of the
it's hard. Yeah.
It's hard. It's a trade.
You're not wrong in the assertion. I think there's a major difference between what the three of us have talked about and what your experience is, and the biggest differentiator in that difference is domain expertise, right? Each one of us is bringing a platform to market that actually has domain expertise. Building a claims platform for life insurance is different than building a claims platform for P&C insurance, and versus someone who has X industry or multi vertical platform. And so I think that's one recipe for failure. I think your point on the 20% versus 80%, look, 80% is no code. I think by having domain expertise, you have the 80%, but you also, instead of calling it customization for that 20%, you have the capabilities of technology built out to configure the last 20%. Instead of having to write code, it's all business logic driven or rules driven or workflow driven or work assignment driven, which is all the critical kind of components of it. And so you can't, so it is going from a different world in this industry. And what the secret sauce is, it's purely domain expertise which none of the platforms from 10 years ago, 20 years had, and any of the platforms that were, the original Insurtechs, frankly, had the domain expertise but didn't have the configurability. And so we're just bringing the best of both worlds together on that, I think.
I think part of that too is, when we spoke to carriers, we did 3 years of research before writing one line of code in Benekiva. And what was interesting was, I would sit with multiple carriers across the United States and I'd hear this one comment: well, we're just a little different. Our process is a little different than all of our competitors. And at the end of the day, from a claims perspective, there are rules, regulations, compliance that all of you have to follow. So are there really that big of differences? Because when we go to a carrier and they say, well, we process claims this way. Can you configure Benekiva to process claims that way? We certainly can. However, we can show you 11 other use cases where they're doing it a little differently. They're not requiring that, on the death side, we're not requiring that certified death certificate anymore on claims under a certain dollar amount. So are you willing to maybe adapt your process a little bit? We're not saying we won't do your process, but we're just saying, why do it that way when all of your competitors are not doing it that way? So I think it's that balance of figuring out what is best for the carrier and their interpretations of the rules and regulations. Give them the opportunity to configure the platform how they see fit, but then also bringing that expertise and knowledge and saying, you might want to look at it a little differently.
And in terms of any particular areas that are more suited, you've sort of said a claim's a claim, but is there particular segments? We see here such a diversity across the industry, or particularly segments, Harry, globally, that you think are particularly relevant for these types of solutions?
Well, we operate, a global company, and we use this because of, in a way, what you're saying is that insurance is, quite a straight-through, regulated sort of process. So a lot of the systems are well suited to gearing up, for configuration rather than rebuilding it all the time. We operate, pet claims, car claims, our micro insurance claims, and in the end of the day, you are just going through 7 or 8 steps of validating the claim and processing the claim. And what we're doing more of is bringing in, AI, technology, machine learning, and integrating into the system, to do straight-through processing. So and particularly with micro, the micro policies, you can't touch a $200 claim. You've got to process it. And where like you say, we don't need to see the death certificate now. Well, no, you take a photograph of it, you read it, and it's done, sort of thing. So we're seeing these applications, where you're particularly bringing in, AI, machine learning into it, and configuring a system to do straight-through processing and to keep the costs down.
Your question is really good, and I guess I hadn't really thought of it this way. It's amazing how everyone thinks they need one claim platform for a company and while a claim is a claim is a claim, there's different steps in an auto claim versus property claim versus a surety claim versus D&O claim or cyber claim. What's interesting to me is there's tons of value in spending the energy on frequency business, whatever line of business is, and then severity business that isn't frequency. It's amazing that companies spend as much time on it. If you do 10 claims in a year, but they're $50 million each, who cares what your system's like? It's a $50 million claim, right? So you can spend a lot more money versus a spoilage claim or a $200, lost jacket or something, right? In a micro policy. But so I think that the value is more having a platform that can be configured to the use case as opposed to a monolithic solution that applies to all. And the biggest shift that's happened probably in just like the last 3 or 4 years, given APIs and open platforms and things like that, is this notion that you can really have multiple tech stacks. And why do we know this? It goes back to our personal lives, right? We go to a bank's website for one thing, we go to Amazon for another thing. People can operate across multiple tech stacks when you're not actually coding in those tech stacks, you're just operating in those tech stacks. In fact, we do it all day long. We've been doing it. Here's people doing it right now in the meeting. Some people are on the phone, some people are on their computer. Those are different operating systems. Claim systems the same way. So I think it's actually created this area where it's like a democratization of platforms when you can bring more platforms in and focus on the outcome you can get. A lot of the, not just Insurtech, tech companies and startups, the whole world are doing this in back office functions like finance, HR, ERP, billing systems, sales systems already, and they're using multiple platforms. So why are insurance carriers the last bastion of a monolithic platform? I don't know.
I think part of it is identifying, and giving them the tools necessary to identify which claims do you want to auto-adjudicate versus which claims need a certain amount of human touch. One of the things that we got wrong in that 3 years of research was we felt claim staff would not accept our platform because they would look at it as, oh my gosh, if we're going to get these types of efficiencies, then what happens to Judy's claims team, right? And we were happily wrong in that research because the claim staff, what was interesting is they embraced the platform, and when we went back and questioned them, okay, what made you embrace this? Well, the automation of these tasks over here were things I didn't want to do anyway. And now I have the time necessary to give that extra human element, spend that extra 5 minutes on the phone with the grieving person going through this process and truly serve the beneficiary. So I think there's this balance between technology and automation versus the human touch in the claims process. Are there some claims you can certainly process from intake to payout without a human being looking at it? Absolutely. We have tons of those live in production. Our question is which ones do you want to do that with? Some of them you may want that human interaction. Some claims you might want to give them that white glove service where you're actually spending even more time. You're almost taking the Zappos theory, right? Where their call centers would spend 2 hours on the phone with an individual to do a shoe purchase, right? It's to us, we built Benekiva, and our first core value at Benekiva, deliver wow. It doesn't matter what party we're talking about. Every party in the claim process should be able to do anything, anywhere, anytime, any device, and have that human element when needed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the scary factor of adjusters or examiners being not as useful, I think we need to change the table and say, look, you can be useful, and you think of it as a profession, not necessarily a processing role. I think this is where the difference is. And where I see it with my clients is that they don't want to change because it is the way we've been doing work for 20 years.
Yeah.
But we need to turn the table, right? As claims, you have that access point, a point in time to work with the client, ensure to make it a good experience. All the benefits for retention purposes, loyalty, NPS scores. At the end of the day, have technology to support the function of the claims to make sure that you're serving that client or the customer the best of your ability, and train the supervisors or even the managers to train your adjusters and examiners to think of claims as helping someone in the time of need, not necessarily just processing an issue. I think technology can support that.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And picking up on both your points, we find we go into a project thinking we know what we're doing, the claim, and the teams find out different ways something else is happening. A different call is coming through, a different process is coming through, and with the low-code platform, it being the BAs that can actually change things and adapt things, we can make these small changes, iterative changes as we go. We're not building this great big monolith system that this is how you will do your job. And we can pick up these changes. As you say, there's one task they don't want to do because it's boring or it's just repetitive, so automate that. And then you can pick up another one, automate that. And then you slowly work through the process rather than spending a lot of time up front designing a theoretically perfect system and then building it. You can work faster by iterating through the changes. And that's particularly for us, where we're actually inventing new insurance policies and new systems. that's very important for us, to be able to do that and have that right down at the BA level and the business level to make those changes.
I think it also comes in when you're talking version controls, things like that as well. I mean, how many of us have implemented a technology platform? Say I purchase version 17, 18 months later, we finally go live, and the vendor's coming back to us saying, well, now you need to upgrade to version 18. Let's start this process all over again. I mean, everybody's been there. Whereas when you go with a no or low code solution, you don't have those versioning issues because you get the updates.
Automatically, every day,
Automatically, you
whenever it
just
comes.
get them. And ours is configured where you can take the ones you want and leave out the ones you don't. Just flip the switch on or off. And that allows you to reduce that technological debt over time and really be speed to market, to your point. You can make those iterative changes, zig when you need to zig and zag when you need to zag very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, look, it also puts the roadmap development into 85% is either new features or expanded features or new partnerships versus maintenance and backward compatibility and reverse engineering it. And we do the same thing in our platform. We release everything under a feature flag. Customer can turn them on or off whenever they want. They can stage them for the change management point. I think I don't want to lose sight of that. I think one of the biggest changes the industry is going through is we used to think everything was IT's thing. IT would go do this project, they would go implement this project, and then claims or underwriting, doesn't really matter, would be the beneficiary of that project. We're 5 years away from a world where every project's a business project and every project's a business owner and they're configuring it and they're gonna get it wrong, especially when you're growing, adding a new line, expanding, scaling, adding new states. Like, you have no chance of getting it right up front, zero. And I love to place bets on how many of these are going to change within the first day of starting. It's like half, right? So I think that's the real opportunity here is really, and the challenge at the same time, which is making sure that the change management is understanding what the realization is that the change is within control of the business leaders. The day-to-day adjusters in this case need to be providing feedback. A product manager or a claims leader needs to be building their own backlog and driving those changes through a no-code platform, and then staging the rollouts around the roadmap planning of what's coming. And that could be extending our platforms. Our entire platform's open APIs. Every data element, every data field in the platform can be pulled out of the system to put into a carrier's own models, and then new information can be brought in to run workflows and automations into the models. And what that means is that the entire platform is extensible all the way down to the screen, right? Like, meaning they can use a feature, not use a feature, turn it on, turn it off.
So this is sounding like quite a big change for insurance companies and the teams and what people do. We're sort of getting rid of the IT departments and we're giving business people a whole bunch of new jobs. Is that where we're heading? I mean, what is this going to mean for roles?
It's
and
IT
where
enablement.
how do we
Brett
make it
Williams
work?
said all IT
you've got
departments.
IT team here. What is this? What is this looking like? How have you seen it so far, and what do you see in the future? I guess everyone, maybe start with you, John, because you've got that perspective of working in change and working with carriers.
I think IT is still an important role. I gotta be, I've been there, seen it. I think it's a collaboration role between business and IT. And it started that way 10, 15 years ago. I think it's just be more integrated going forward. I do agree that, back to total cost of ownership. I think that's the key here, right? There's monolithic systems that are in existence today that just take forever to release one line of code, right? We want to get beyond that because that just slows everything down. But IT is important. I think there's going to be, I hate to say it, guys, there's going to be some how we define configuration or customization. There's going to be that because vendor X, vendor Y does it this way, or company Y does it this way, or agency does it this way. There's going to be that give and take to kind of find a happy medium to make it work.
I'd push you a little bit further though. IT or engineering, right? Like, so IT, information security, data security, data privacy, disaster recovery, continuity, more important than ever, right? So not to minimizing that. But we're taking the work to exactly where you went to, which is what are the vendor integrations? What are the third-party data sources? What are the risk models? What are the fraud models? What are the different components of the claims workflow that we need to pipe into the system and focus the engineering team's energy on building those integrations, which isn't just passing data here and there, but also driving the workflows and automations after it. So that's a huge focus, right? Which right now is like 10% of what an implementation is, and it should be 90% truly building that connectivity versus all of the requirements gathering and all the guesswork around how a workflow should work, how work routing should work, or how dispatch should work, or communications and engagement and templating. Like all of that stuff, it's configurable. It doesn't matter. You can do it in an iterative process. And so it really takes the scarce resources and lets them focus on the things that are the most value add versus right now when like 80% of the activity is documentation work and 20% is value add, and it flips it. So I think it actually puts the IT and engineering teams in a place where they're delivering more value, more expertise, and lets the business users drive business direction.
I remember I mentioned we got two things wrong in our research. One was the claim staff not wanting the platform, and they've actually embraced it. The second thing we got wrong in the research, which was still a good thing for Benekiva, was we felt the IT staff would be the last folks to say yes. It's that commercial where you got the IT guy walking around shaking his head. No, it's a funny commercial, but there's some truth to that. And once you show a good tech team or IT team a good platform, because you got to understand it from their lens, right? They've heard configurable hundreds of times in the past, and it's truly not. So anytime, a new configurable platform comes in, all of a sudden they look at their last 10 projects that they were told that, and it wasn't that case. But the business unit says, we want this platform. And then the IT gets to really dive into the platform and identify, holy crap, this thing is truly configurable. Now it's an IT enablement tool. It's not a friction point for IT anymore. So that was our experience. We've actually, I was glad we got those two pieces of research wrong, but I think it really truly can be an IT enablement process.
For our company, our tech teams and our BA teams, it takes a lot of the mundane work away from the IT team, and we can you get better people in the company who they're thinking of real customer problems. They're trying to build new components for integration, and this is what they focus on. Whereas the BA team can go out there and work with the customers to actually deliver, that which is what they want. So you haven't got this, the old IT department, if you like, hold them up and getting things wrong. The BA is getting that wrong, the tester's getting this wrong, everybody getting everything wrong. It's a whole mess. Whereas people want to work with us and work for us in the team because they're not having to do mundane little works of, somebody just wants to put a new field in somewhere, and that takes a load of work.
A new
to
logo.
Do. Yeah, a new logo. Yeah, right.
The most frequent one.
Yeah, that's it. Or that sort of thing. So, and they don't want to do that work. So it means that you can attract really good staff into your company and keep them, and that's goes for us, but also our clients, because they're not having to deal with another bad implementation.
Yeah, and I guess as the talent changes and we're getting now the digital natives coming through, are they really going to want to deal with those green screens and those kind of systems? So I guess that the talent aspect is another one. What are you seeing, John, in terms of, you were talking about the adjusters before. How does it connect in with them when you've got the different people in the value chain that you're working with? Is there particular things you need to be kind of thinking about in this, with using these kind of technologies?
I think using this technology is rapid adoption. I think with the war on talent, finding the staff to do the actual business work, they kind of expect the rapid pace of development. The industry needs to keep up with the other industries in the world. I think that can be a competitive advantage.
We failed that bar.
Right.
So
We're catching up.
catch up.
We're catching up at this point. But I think it's an important aspect to consider. I think the generational gaps these days coming in to the insurance, specifically in claims, it's a different mentality and there's different expectations. The days of getting a car a company car are over, right? You're going to be working at home. You're going to be on Zoom. You're going to have a laptop. You're going to have a phone. You're going to be talking to insureds virtually. Those are changing, and then the technology needs to follow that right behind it.
So we have like 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
You flew over from Australia. You have a really cool organization. Can you tell everyone about it?
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. So we're a not-for-profit and we're a member association, and we have 90 Insurtech members, and we have 11 of them here. And what we do is connect and help them in terms of member education of what they do. We have ones that are very early in their journey. Often they've worked for an insurance company, they've found a problem a bit like you, and then they've gone and launched it. And then we're through to, Cover Genius, who's sponsoring the fantastic coffee cart here. And we also aim to work with the regulators around what is the environment, how can we really enable that success, and how do we look with the insurers, and they're all in kind of different phases, to share, this is what's happening, and part of coming here is to share this is what's happening in the bigger market and bring some of those things back home. So it's great to kind of look a bit outside. Australia is a long way away from in terms of time zone and distance, but then we've also seen with the global kind of pandemic that you can be on a call anywhere, and so that's really brought the opportunities. And kind of people say to me, is there anything particularly unique about the Australian market? And I'd say, probably not, but we do see people have to build their businesses globally, and that's what they're doing. They're really, got teams all over the world. Anything else that maybe I'll let each of you, we've got a couple of minutes. Where do you see in the future? Where are we going to be in, I guess, 5 years' time in this sort of environment? 30 seconds from each of you. John?
Oh, first?
Yeah.
I would love to see low-code, no-code solutions become fully enabled, where my job becomes easier in working on the business process and not technology being the hindrance. I just come from an area where I think business drives technology. I've seen too many projects where technology drives business fails, but I would love to see technology collaborate with the business so we can enable business to run faster. And address claims auto adjudication, which is this unicorn word.
Yeah, I think there's just two pieces for me. One, we've always had this vision that, with the data that we have that are available and a good platform, you can actually, do and process claims anywhere, anytime, any device for any party involved. But I think the future of that is as we add more external data sources, analytics, AI engines, things like that, we could actually get to a point where a claim is processed and money is dumped into a person's account without them even having to file a first notice of loss. I mean, we could get to that point to where we just know that this claim needs to be paid and it needs to go in this account. Do a verification. Is this your account? Did you have this accident? Yes. There's your money. It really could be that simple if we just get out of that old saying of, we've done it. I've said this forever on the life annuity and health side. Life annuity and health has been in existence for 267 years? And we still process claims today like we did 267 years ago. That's a problem. That's where I think the future of this can go. I think the second piece is when you take, in particular, when you take an Insurtech or a startup and you pair that with a carrier, an incumbent type carrier, great things can happen. Think about it. The carrier is the cruise ship, right? The 25-story cruise ship. They cannot turn that thing around in a moment's notice. The Insurtechs are the speedboats, right? When you pair those two things together, when you pair a carrier's wants and needs and the capital that they have at their disposal with an Insurtech's execution and ability to get this thing done quick, I think great things can happen.
10 seconds.
10 seconds. I think for me it's building out this notion of insurance as a service and building that, and that's what that's what we've got this full stack platform to do. And your thing of paying them before they know they've had the claim, making it much more parametric-like, if you like, and that's what we're doing and building as a service. And with our with the platform, the technology, if a customer comes to us and we build them out an insurance program, and then they want to go and build, take that risk away and put it into a captive because the loss ratios are really good and they want to participate, then actually our technology can go with it. And so they don't then have to go and build another load of stuff. So the whole process, and this is what I think, the service is managing that, the risk, the risk and the technology together, so you can provide that complete service to the customers.
Final word.
We're over time, one word. I'm going to say this. There's 200 people in this room. Thank you for coming. We're at a place right now where the entire industry loves to criticize and dunk on insurtechs and people that are trying to build businesses. I love seeing the support for everyone in this room. Some of these companies are going to do really well. Some of these companies are not going to do very well. But what happens is the industry advances. And I think with everyone here, everyone should really take step back, not talk about claims for a second, and just talk about how important it is to support all of these different companies. The ecosystem. 6 years ago, there was like 700 people at this event. This thing needs to go for like 10 more years to see the full possibility of what's out there, and to really push incumbents and insurtechs together alike. I think all of us have a responsibility to do that at any stage, and I think we should all be a little bit more supportive. It's really easy to be a critic. It's really hard to be supportive, especially in an environment like this.
Great. Thank you, everyone.